Spencer Arnold. I've been working here as a marine biologist, marine conservationist for the past 5 years in Cotonou. Yeah, I've been working with turtles for the last 5 years as well through our headstarting program. And I've been doing work with turtles ever since I was about 18. I traveled abroad and I've seen a variety of different, essentially, takes on turtle conservation. All of the 7 extant species of sea turtle find themselves on the IUCN red list, except for one. The only species that doesn't find themselves on that list is flatback sea turtles. As we know, of course, the populations and habitats of these organisms are being destroyed on a very wide scale. Again, when it comes to our planet's ecosystems, there are very few ecosystems that are as marginalized and destroyed as marine ecosystems, right? Fortunately, by virtue of being below the surface of an ocean, most people don't ever take them into consideration or think about them. But of course, the reality is that the harm being done to them is of a very, very large scale. And unfortunately, for the last, an incredibly long time, for the last 2 centuries or so, turtle populations across our globe have been declining incredibly rapidly. And of course, they've been declining exponentially rapidly as time has gone on. With survival rates at 1 in every 1,000 hatchlings surviving and reaching to a sexually reproductive age, the odds of their populations rebounding after all of these destructive activities that have happened is very low. So turtles are a really wonderful avenue for educating local people about marine ecosystems. It's very difficult to use organisms like coral, as you know, to get people really excited about reef ecosystems because most people don't relate to a coral. They don't look at a coral and they don't think to themselves, oh, cute, but when everybody sees a sea turtle, they have that instant reaction. It doesn't matter what age you are. There are species that you can throw up there and use as an ambassador for underwater ecosystems. The Thai Navy and DMCR have been working together for I don't know how many years doing this headstarting work. So many years. We've released over 300 turtles over the course of our time program. And the whole purpose of our headstarting program is that we're reducing that mortality at that most early stage in their life cycle. So we're essentially raising turtles from that age of 0 years old after they come out of the nest, and we're taking them from that age to about a year old, or at least a specific size, so roughly about 20 to 25 centimeters of shell length, and then we're releasing them. Because around that length, the odds of them surviving in the wild is drastically improved. We see roughly about a 10 times increase in their survivability after a year of living. Essentially trying to influence policy to benefit these species, but more often than not, papers that they're writing. This is some crazy statistic, like 99% of academic papers that are written and published in scientific journals are only ever read by the peer reviewers and the people who are publishing those papers. After, again, something becomes, let's say, again, a well-established scientific fact, like, let's say, turtle populations across our planet at the moment, this is something that we can all agree upon, thanks to, again, populations that we're monitoring coming as nesting populations to the shores during mating season. The truth is that, like, data collection is sort of an endless pursuit, right? Again, science, just sort of as a feature, is something that constantly needs to be, that needs constant, again, checking and rechecking. You know, that is the scientific process, right? A certain degree of social pressure is almost always needed as well to create policy in the first place. Normally, if there's no social pressure available for the academic findings of scientists, no matter what field you're in, there's going to be no, unless there's, again, an economic incentive as well. Unless there's societal pressure, there's normally not ever going to be a change in policy that will actively address whatever conclusion you come to in your paper. So when it comes to turtles, there fortunately is enough societal pressure on governments to do something about their declining populations, particularly governments in parts of the world where tourism is a frequent feature, right? Again, many people who, again, live in these economies that are driven by tourism have a vested interest in the ecosystems that attract people to these places in the first place. The BBC has sort of an unwritten code of conduct amongst its photographers and videographers, and you probably remember from the Blue Planet series where the turtles were hatching off the coast, I believe, of Mexico, and the lights were essentially interfering with the turtles' ability to head out into the open ocean. It's a commonly accepted problem with, again, coastal development is that the lights actually cause turtles to be disoriented when they come up out of their nests because they use moonlight coming off the water navigate directly to the ocean. So again, without that, they meander and they actually head inland. And this was one of the few times that Dave Attenborough and the crew, at least in Blue Planet, ever interfered and stepped in and tried to help out these organisms. They ended up, again, returning several of these sea turtles to the ocean. Whereas in most instances, again, like let's say if you're watching like a bull elephant getting taken down by a group of lions, they just film that, right? That's more often than not, you're wondering to yourself, well, this is kind of vicious and savage. Like, why are they not interfering or interacting, or the truth is that we can't play favorites when it comes to our planet's ecosystems, right? If we've got an incredible amount of coastal development going up, for example, building resorts and hotels that line the beachfront, in these areas where turtles used to historically nest, when a turtle comes to shore and they see all of that commotion, normally they'll leave what's called a false arc in the sand. They'll leave a trail where they go, and they'll actually never lay that nest. It's just an arch in the sand, and you'll go to the very edge of that arc where it crests, hoping to find the nest, but you'll never find it, right? Because essentially that turtle is assessing out the area. When we build and we develop beachfront properties, especially ones that are historical turtle nesting grounds, we destroy these nesting grounds that turtles can survive on. We know that they do well on. So that, of course, what we're doing is we're forcing these turtles to go to other beaches where, again, let's say tides might come up a little bit higher. The turtle might not be familiar with the tide line, let's say, and again, oftentimes it will end up in a failed nesting, right? A lot of times the nest will end up getting washed out, or again, there will be too many predators on the new island that it's come to, and the nest will get dug up and eaten. So, how would you reduce the need for programs like this, and let's say the protecting of turtles when they're incubating in their nests, is you would reduce the amount of coastal development. But the odds of that happening is very poor, because of course we as a species tend to love living close to the ocean, forcing them to go elsewhere to lay their nest. Right, so why is that a bad thing? Well, if a turtle is coming back and laying its nest on the very beach that it was born from, what's the benefit of that? Well, it survived being laid on that beach. So there's a good chance, it's highly probable that if it lays a nest there again, provided conditions remain similar to what it experienced when it was, of course, an egg growing in the sand, incubating in the sand, again, it will be more likely that that nest will survive. It used to historically be a really well-occupied turtle nesting ground. Again, like if you look back in historical writings when people used to live on the island back in like the 70s and 80s, back before tourism had really taken off here, tons and tons of turtles would come apparently to the beaches and lay nests here. Right? They'd say that the beach would go black with turtles.